Hello, so we are on to sedimentary notes. What I would like you to do is write in sedimentary notes. You don't have to put Cornell in. This is going to be on page 11, so please put page 11 here. Put the date in here. Just make sure that it matches up with this essential question. You don't have to put the standards in, that's fine. What kind of materials make up sedimentary rocks? What processes form sedimentary rocks? All right, so we're going to hop over to the anticipation guide. That's on the second page behind the vocab. You're writing true or false on the left-hand side underneath before. So number 7, sedimentary rocks form when loose material called sediments get pressed or cemented into rocks. True or false? Small particles of sediments may form into rocks by pressure alone held together by silicate. True or false? Number 8. All right, when you're done with that, let's flip back to page 11. And what you're going to do is you're just going to fill in the yellow words. So I also would highly suggest doing some type of little drawing on the side just so that it'll help you out for later. Sedimentary rocks form when loose sediment, like those, gets pressed or cemented into rock. Sandstone is an example of this. All right, so you find this in like the Grand Canyon. So with the Grand Canyon, you have rocks like this, and you can see the different colors of the different layers that make up the sandstone. It's just sand smushed and smushed and smushed together. So from that, you get weathering and erosion. So you got sedimentary rocks. They're made from rocks put like smushed together to make other rocks, right? Okay. So how does these sediments happen? How do we have sediments? It's from weathering and erosion. So weathering, like at sandy beaches, most are made up of rock particles, right? Or sediments broken down or weathered. So weathering happens, water, wind, whatever. It breaks down a rock and it forms particles or sediments. And those travel away due to erosion. It pulls it away and it places it somewhere else. It deposits it somewhere else. And then once all that stuff gets put somewhere else, it starts compressing because you've got layers and layers of sediments. They start to get compressed or pressed together as more and more and more rocks and sediments and stuff get piled on top. And these form sedimentary rocks. Okay, so I use the phrase cementing. So that's a good thing, cementation. A small particle of sediments may form into rocks by pressure alone. So just pressure by itself, it can form rocks, like silt and clay. Okay. So I would show you some silt, but I don't have any siltstone. But silt and clay, they get smushed and smushed out in the ocean, not very close to the shore. But like it forms right there. This is clay right here. Clay forms this. This forms shale. You can find this a lot on buildings. They use a lot of shale on buildings. And that forms from clay, just from pressure alone, right? So how does it cement together? How does it stick together? Well, there are minerals inside of silt and clay particles, and even sand particles. And these minerals crystallize and they act like glue, like cement. So like right here, this is the same thing you're seeing on the screen right here. It's a bunch of pebbles and stones smushed together and cemented or glued together by minerals. And then you have fossils. So right here, what you didn't see is there's a bunch of fossils on this clay. They're like little tiny fossils. It's not that easy to see on here, but they're fossils. And these fossils help to make stones, sometimes some rocks. The same process, this pushing, produce rocks from shells, like this. You can see on the top, it looks like shells. Forms this limestone, or plant remains. These all are called fossils. Like they're made from fossils. Another one is the plant remains. So coal has dead wood, bark, leaves, stems, roots. It forms from plants instead of rocks. And what it means by that is like in swampy, boggy areas, all these trees and plants and leaves and whatnot, they die and they fall over and they're in stagnant water. So it can't decompose. It doesn't have all that stuff to decompose. So it lays there in a stagnant pool and more stuff dies and falls on top and it pushes, and it forms peat. I don't know if you've ever heard of peat moss, but they use that in Ireland to use for fires because there's not a lot of wood. So they use peat moss, or they at least used to. And then as that get pushed and pushed more, it forms something called lignite or brown coal. It still looks a little bit like peat moss, but it's called lignite. It's brown. And then it pushes even farther and it forms this. And you can see some of the layers right there. This is coal. It's bituminous coal. It makes bituminous coal. And then as you metamorphize that, it turns into anthracite coal with more heat and pressure. And then you get even more heat and pressure and you form diamonds. So that's pretty cool. All right, so limestone, this thing right here. Limestone is made up of carbonate materials, meaning it's formed from shells and skeletons of ocean organisms. So it forms this stuff called limestone. And limestone is made up of mineral calcite. And calcite, if you remember, some minerals bubble with acid. Well, this has calcite in it. And it bubbles with acid, reacts with acid, meaning it dissolves. This block could dissolve. And if you have lots of this under you and it starts to rain, and some of that rain is acid rain, it then forms holes underneath you, or it makes caves. All right, so then we have layers. Rocks have layers. Onions have layers. Rocks have layers. So these rocks, these sedimentary rocks, have layers just like this. Grand Canyon's great to see these. So sedimentary rocks are laid down in layers, meaning the oldest layers are on the bottom. They were laid down first. And then as you lay up, the top part, the top layer is the youngest. And by studying these different layers of sedimentary rocks, we can tell what the place was like way long time ago. So here's a little bit of review. You could put this with your T-chart from your igneous. Just know that wind, water, aka waves, break down the earth. And sediments, then all that breakdown, then all those sediments typically settle, deposit in lakes and rivers and oceans. These, and then layers are formed and they are built up and up and up and up and up and up and up, right? And because you have all these layers, it starts putting some pressure because that waste stuff, it pressures, and that time, that pressure and the minerals inside, it compacts and cements together. Okay? Quiz time. What I'd like you to do, get out your sheet of paper with all the quizzes. This is quiz 4. It's sedimentary. Please label it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stop if you need to. All right. What is the process by which sedimentary rocks are formed? Okay, I don't like this one. All right, give me 1 second. This one's better. All right, so what is the process by which sedimentary rocks are formed? Magma, cooling, weathering and erosion, heat and pressure, or compaction and cementation? A, B, C, or D. Number 2, small particles of sediment may form into rocks by pressure alone, such as blank and blank. Is that limestone and coal, silt and clay, fossils and sandstone, sandstone and clay? Rocks held together by pressure are cemented by what? Is it crystals, sand, minerals, or it depends on the environment in which it's formed? What has deadwood? Bark, leaves, stems, roots forming from plants instead of earlier rocks forming millions of years ago in swamps? Is it limestone, coral, coal, or clay? Last but not least, sedimentary rocks are laid down in layers. The blank layers are on top. All right, let's go to 1. What is the process by which sedimentary rocks are formed? Let's move this. Compaction and cementation. Small particles of sediments may form into rocks by pressure alone, such as silt and clay. Rocks are held together by pressure, are cemented by minerals. What was dead wood, bark, leaves, stems, roots forming from plants instead of earlier rocks forming millions of years ago in swamps? Coal. And the last one, sedimentary rocks are laid down in layers, the blank layer on top. That'd be the youngest. All right, let's go back to the anticipation guide. We're going to go into the after slot on the right-hand side. Sedimentary rocks are formed when loose material called sediments are pressed together or cemented into rock. This is true. Sandstone is one example right here, formed from sediments cemented. Number 8. Small particles of sediments may form into rocks by pressure alone, held together by silicate. True or false? This one is false. We crystallize minerals, sediment rocks together by pressure alone, such as silt and clay. All right, so now please flip back to page 11. We're going to do our summary. Only need 2 sentences, please. What kind of materials make up sedimentary rocks? Sedimentary rocks are made up of, give me the 3 things. There are 3 things they're made up of. What processes form sedimentary rocks? Sedimentary rocks are formed by what and what? All right, when you are done, please make sure everything is labeled, and I hope you guys have a nice day.